In Georgia, anti-government demonstrators have taken to the streets again, with the ruling Georgian Dream Party expected to name far-right ex-footballer Mikheïl Kavelachvili as president. The opposition is boycotting the vote and calling for a rerun of October's parliamentary elections, which they say were neither free nor fair. We're now joined by Thornike Gordaze, who's associate researcher at the Jacques Delors Institute, and he was Georgia's Minister of European Integration from 2010 to 2012. Thanks for speaking to France 24.
Good morning.
Morning. So what are your emotions seeing today's scenes playing out both in Parliament and outside?
Outside of Parliament, there is a huge rally against the nomination of Mr. Kavelachvili as the president. Not a single opposition party will participate in this election. All opposition parties are not only boycotting the parliament, but they refuse to register as MPs after the fraudulent elections that took place 26th of October. And yesterday we have seen some interesting scenes of performance action from the participants of the protest. They took football balls and they were playing in front of in the main avenue of Tbilisi, calling the future president in quotes to come and to play with them. The problem is that Mr. Kavelachvili is not only not qualified for this job. I can recall that a few years ago, this person was trying to be the president of the Football Federation of the country, and his application was refused because he had no diploma. So Mr. Ivanishvili, who is the billionaire behind all this, decided that Mr. Kavelachvili was qualified to be the next president. He is famous for his anti-Western rhetorics, for his aggressive behavior in the parliament, and there are doubts that Mr. Ivanishvili, the former ruler of the country, wants to destroy the presidential institution to make it ridiculous and to appear as the only source of power in this country.
Now, it was your mission about 12, 14 years ago to bring Georgia closer to the European Union. Since then, looking at what we're seeing today, has the country ever been further in that last decade from that goal?
Not only in the last decade, but since Georgia is independent, the only foreign policy vector was pro-Western and pro-European. This is the historical opportunity that Georgia got last year from the European Union, the status of the candidate country. And the current government, which is illegitimate again now because they came to power with contested and fraudulent elections, are destroying this historical opportunity. They did everything to sabotage this historical opportunity. I can remind that a few months ago, they introduced a law called the Russian law, which is law about the foreign agents, qualifying all these civil society organizations as being foreign agents. This was in total contradiction of European values and the whole process of the European integration. And 2 weeks ago, this so-called self-proclaimed Prime Minister Zourabichvili announced that Georgia was stopping the integration process. So this is something, and the behavior of the law enforcement bodies since the protest started is just in contradiction of everything that looks like rule of law or democracy.
Now, this is, of course, a dangerous situation. What comes next as these protests keep growing?
The protests will remain, and we see more and more sectors of society participating in this protest. Unlike many other protests, we see protests in the small towns, in the provinces. 37 cities and towns are mobilized, and we see people working in the public sector also criticizing the decision of the government. That was very difficult in Georgia when Georgian Dream Party operated a full state capture. Now we see public servants going in the streets and going against this government. The protests will continue. The current president, Zourabichvili, said that she will not resign and she will remain until new elections take place and a legitimate parliament is elected in this country. The president is elected by the parliament and 150 representatives of local councils. As the parliament is totally legitimate, these elections is illegitimate. Mr. Kavelachvili will have no challenger, and he will probably have 100% of the votes because the only party that participates in this election is Georgian Dream.
Now, Mr. Kavelachvili, you were talking about there, can we actually expect him to wield any sort of power or stamp his mark on Georgia?
No, he was selected especially because he has no capacity to have power. Mr. Ivanishvili, the informal ruler of Georgia, by the way, the French president Emmanuel Macron called 2 days ago this very person, I mean the informal ruler of Georgia, to ask him to stop violence and to free all the arrested participants of the rallies, and not the official prime minister of the country, Mikheïl Kavelachvili. So the new president, again in quotes, will represent just a decoration. And even further, as I said, Mr. Ivanishvili could have chosen someone else, just someone more presentable, able to articulate, to present something. But he decided to destroy the presidential institution in nominating Mr. Kavelachvili. Mr. Kavelachvili will not have a presidential palace. He will be in a residence where the prime minister is working, and he will have just two rooms just above the prime minister's office. Symbolically, it also shows how unimportant this person will be in the next few years if he remains as president, of course.
Now, you mentioned briefly Salome Zourabichvili, of course, the current president, who says she's not stepping down. Does she still have much room to maneuver? What can she still do in the face of the Georgian Dream Party?
Her only power is people, Georgian people, and the opposition and the civil society that gathers around her now, because she's the last elected legitimate institution in this country. As I said, in 12 years of power, Georgian Dream operated a full capture of the state. We have a judiciary under total control of this party. We have every administration that is totally controlled by the Georgian Dream. That's why the falsification of the elections took place. So Salome Zourabichvili is the last remaining institution that is not under the control of the oligarch billionaire, and now she's the focal point of the society, of the Georgian society, that will gather around her, asking new elections. This is not that she will stay without any legitimacy. She's asking to organize new elections under new Central Electoral Commission, and then she will resign. She will end her mandate once a democratic and free parliament is elected.
Now, like Zourabichvili, you also live in France. You have close links to France, of course. Are you looking at the political situation here and thinking France could have done so much more to support Georgia and the Georgian people in this time?
Not only France, but the European Union, the United States, the whole West can do much more. I really appreciate the personal implication of President Macron, who called the billionaire several days ago. He also made a public address to the Georgian people yesterday in calling and supporting Georgia's European aspiration, and also debunking all the pro-Russian narratives that Georgian Dream presents in this country for many years. So what can be done is a full support from European leaders, from the European Union, from the Foreign Affairs Council of the European Union that will take place on Monday in Brussels. Not only full support of the Georgia's European aspirations, but strong steps to introduce sanctions against those who are violating rules in Georgia, who are brutalizing the Georgian people who participate in these rallies, and also to call for new elections. This is the only possible way out. Otherwise, the government is escalating, and we will see much more violence in the coming days.
Thornike Gordaze, thank you so much for speaking to France 24 and for all your analysis on the topic.